boy go out here and panic his ass off soon as he get thrown in there with the Wolves. Because the real Wolves come during the season.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh is coming. Baltimore is coming. The real Wolves is coming. Now, I am praying to God that Shedeur gets an opportunity to show what he can really do. And I think that would be probably the best thing for him. But knowing the Cleveland Browns, they dumbass gonna trade him.
It seems that half of the NFL has already concluded that Cleveland isn't deserving of joy. Teams are now displaying trade offers like cash at an auction, getting the appearance of a full-fledged yard sale outside the Browns' front office. From desperate teams pleading for help to cunning coaches behaving like eBay at 2 in the morning, the insanity never stops. The league office's trade phones are ringing so loudly that you would think the NFL had become a quarterback-starved charity telethon. And Sanders is the one sitting in the middle of this storm. Cleveland is clinging to the golden ticket like it's the final PlayStation 5 on Black Friday. Franchises don't simply call. For a chance at this man, they are groveling, begging, and imploring.
Thing that a winning coach wants for a quarterback that can help to build a dynasty. But can't nobody else get him until somebody shakes some shit up. So we just gonna keep on holding people accountable till they start shaking.
The Browns' reaction couldn't be more icy. Not at all. Go cry into your books now. The Bengals are calling you like that ex who claimed to have moved on, but they're suddenly making a comeback with late-night enthusiasm. Miami is dominating Cleveland's line after Tua determined that the first week was the ideal moment to lose all quarterbacking skills. The Rams are calling in between appointments with Matthew Stafford's chiropractor as if it were an emergency. The Colts, yes, the Colts, then attempted to go slick.
And going into the weekend to select 2 quarterbacks, but as we talk about, we do believe in best player available. We do believe in positional value, and we didn't necessarily expect him to be available in the 5th round, and so we love adding competition to every position room and adding him to compete with the guys that are already in there. We felt like
a scratch-off lottery ticket you obtain at a gas station counter, the idea of trading Anthony Richardson is floated. With his arms crossed in a smug nope, Cleveland is out there sneering like the Joker and shoving everyone away. Neither today nor tomorrow. Not until Belichick appears on the sidelines wearing a crop top and pigs grow wings. The kicker is this: Cleveland has Sanders sitting as their 3rd stringer, as NFL front offices are using their phone batteries to attempt to lock him down. 3rd place goes to Dylan Gabriel, whose greatest accomplishment so far is getting mistaken for the guy who sets up the Gatorade coolers, and Joe Flacco, who is approaching 40 and ought to really bring a senior citizen discount voucher.
The owner don't want him, the coach don't want him, the general manager don't want him. They don't want him on the team. Obviously, the NFL do not want Shiloh or Shedeur in the league, but Shedeur is good for money and ratings, or he wouldn't even be there. They don't ever want him to play. Deion showed them yesterday of how he ran Colorado, what Cleveland should be doing. But they ain't gonna do it. Instead, they list Shedeur as inactive for today's game. Listen.
Shedeur hasn't even put on his suit. He is essentially the priciest mannequin in Cleveland. On the sidelines, a franchise savior was dressed in sweats and gathering dust. Not only is this tragic, but it's also hilarious. It looks like bargain hunters searching through a dollar store clearance bin when you get a glimpse of who Cleveland is researching for the 2026 draft.
Had 3 teams. So y'all ain't know that this come from the inside. Somebody on the inside is sick of the Browns they sell. 3 teams asked for Shedeur. They want to train him. They want to start him. You know what the Browns did? Nope. We gonna keep him. Nope. See, that's the devil. But
Manning arched 25 attempts with 11 completions, 1 pick, 1 touchdown. Instead of being the next NFL star, the stat line seems like something from a Pop Warner scrimmage. Additionally, the team punter is starting to perspire after Drew Aller, 16 of 29, had 1 score, 1 interception, and enough misfires. Despite their apparent brilliance, Cleveland still believes it's a good idea to continue scouting quarterbacks. Instead of swooning over guys who continually pass the ball to defenders like they're trying out for someone else's highlight reel, you should definitely overlook the person who is already displaying NFL-level precision and leadership. Yes, that is very logical. And now for the crazy twist. Examine how Sanders was acquired by the Browns in the first place. Number 144, the 5th-round pick, is the NFL equivalent of a yard sale find. No one was outwitted by them. While the rest of the league experienced a collective brain freeze, they simply got lucky. To get Tyler's show, even the Saints passed on him. To be honest, that ought to be considered a football war crime. However, Cleveland's front management is secretly aware of what they got themselves into.
Well, for sure. I mean, listen, what do I want to watch? I want to watch Shedeur Sanders.
Who doesn't want to watch that? The world wants to see him go out there and not only play, but have success. At this point, guys are rooting for him. This isn't anything against Dylan. This isn't anything against Joe. I'm just saying the excitement is there for him to go out there.
Andrew Berry essentially acknowledged that the league made a mistake by overlooking Sanders. The Browns are now clinging to him like a child does to their favorite toy. This is where it becomes indisputable. Sanders is more than a mere arm. The communal stunts he's performing would have made Mr. Rogers envious. Do you recall that Rainbow Terrace apartment fire? While most rookies would have been worrying about Cleveland lunch options and likely stuck with dreary fare like pierogies, Sanders was on the ground, acting like a real-life hero and lending a hand. He's out there setting up assistants, helping people, and funding activities.
Eyes on the screen, he is going to bring people to the game. It is what it is, man. I would love to fucking see it, man. Yeah. I say all this as a fellow Clevelander, and I hear with the chatter around Cleveland and how everybody just you get Deion's son in the building,
essentially accomplishing more off the field than the majority of veterans ever do. In the meantime, the league is in a state of anarchy. When Joe Burrow leaves the Bengals, his name immediately rises to the top of their list of emergency needs. The Dolphins are compelled to watch Tua use the football to play hot potato. As if it were a virtual demonstration, Miami supporters constantly bombard Twitter with hashtags related to Sanders. Matthew Stafford's spine is being sidelined by the Rams like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. And the Colts are hanging about like crazy scientists, wondering whether Anthony Richardson is a science project with a deadline or if he is indeed the franchise's savior.
Limelight, he enjoys being on that football field. He's got excitement. He's the showman when he plays.
Cleveland is keeping the solution in their closet, and all of these clubs are in dire straits. This is where the comedy truly shines. He is more than just a quarterback. He is a whole cultural revolution. Let's be honest, for many years, the Browns have been a source of suffering. The fumble, the drive, and that never-ending quarterback carousel that seemed to be supported by nothing but heartache and resembled a horrible game of musical chairs. However, Sanders then appeared.
With all 3 guys to really give the defense a good look. Because being a scout team quarterback, you're working on your own craft, but really it's an art form to replicate the opponent so the defense can be ready to do their thing on Sunday. Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit different, and it's exciting because those guys do take pride in getting the defense ready. They want to do a good job of replicating the opponent's offense, and at the same time, they want to try to relate any play that they get to our game plan for that week too, so they can feel like they can get a little double duty there. Well, the quarterbacks are trying to do their best, as we know. Tough to replicate that character.
The same individual who transformed Jackson State into a dominant force. The same individual who arrived in Colorado and created a program that was dusty and irrelevant suddenly came back to life. He is more than a mere athlete. He is the kind of person who can walk into a dumpster fire and somehow emerge with a fully constructed fireplace. He is a problem solver and a culture fixer. Cleveland is the franchise that shouts dumpster fire the loudest. Naturally, though, not everyone agrees with the Browns' small plan. Trade him if you're not going to play him, ESPN voices are already yelling. On air, Tony Rizzo essentially lost it, accusing the Browns of reducing Sanders to a gaudy mascot used to sell jerseys. To be honest, that's not even the most absurd interpretation. How long is it possible to keep a Ferrari parked in the garage while everyone else in the league is stuck in broken minivans?
Jackson and him and everybody else that we talked to have said that Shedeur looks good. He looks really good.
Yes.
He looks better. And we got Zach that say Dylan Gabriel ain't even an NFL quarterback.
That's true.
So how is it that this man can't get a rep with the ones, but that non-NFL
100%.
quarterback can?
We all
what
agree with
sense
that.
does that make?
It makes no sense.
Clearly, the guys running the team disagree with us.
Man,
it doesn't make any
and they're
sense.
the ones.
What are y'all trying to? What is the goal of this year?
Let's not pretend, though, that the Browns don't believe they have a plan. Coach jargon for "we don't really know what we're doing, but maybe something will click later" is what Kevin Stefanski keeps saying about Sanders' development. And it might not be the worst thing in the world to let him spend a year sitting behind Flacco's antiquated wisdom. He should learn from his grandfather how to stand tall in the pocket, steer clear of those back-breaking interceptions, and perhaps even eat shamelessly from the senior menu at Denny's. However, the training wheels must eventually be removed. This is where the actual fireworks occurred, the November 4th trading deadline. Make a note of it. At that point, the Rams, who are eager for a future free of Stafford's sore back, might suddenly show up with several picks. Because this is the reality. Sanders is more than simply another quarterback to Cleveland. They notice him.
ESPN has reported that Shedeur Sanders is not receiving any reps. That means no second team, third team, not even scout team reps. Meaning he's just sitting in practice, throwing the ball to whoever and just going through drills all day. No practice reps? No nothing? He can't improve? Why? Why is he not given an opportunity to even improve his skills? That's the whole point of practice. I understand not letting him go with the ones at this point. You've made it clear. Maybe even second team, but not even scout team reps?
As the person who could at last make watching Browns football enjoyable without requiring a strong drink to endure it, the nightmare fuel for the rest of the league is right there. Because all of the teams that passed on Sanders will appear foolish at a child's birthday celebration if he truly turns out to be what Cleveland claims he can be. Therapy sessions will be necessary for the Saints to deal with their decision to select Tyler Shoke over Sanders. For years to come, the Bengals, Dolphins, Rams, and Colts will be regretting not putting more on the table when they had the opportunity. The rest of the NFL will be in shock, wondering how Cleveland, yes, the league's iconic joke, managed to pull off what may be considered the steal of the century. The cruelest twist, though, is this. Sanders hasn't even put on his uniform and is still parked as the third stringer. Joe Flacco, a living relic from the Obama administration, is trotting onto the field in the meantime. And additionally, supporters are left perplexed as to why their golden ticket is wasting away on the field.
Blanket, which is what you brought him there for to begin with. You didn't bring him there to lead the Browns. You brought him to be a security blanket in the event that you couldn't find somebody else who could do it. That's why people in Cleveland were looking at it last year. Why the hell isn't he here last year? What the hell you let him get out the door for before you ultimately brought him back after the season he had a couple of years ago? But I do think it's important to bring this one nugget up. I'm looking at the average time to throw for a quarterback last year in the National Football League. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like at 2.42 to 3.14 seconds, if I remember correctly, based on what I read.
Purchasing a Ferrari and then opting to use it as a lawn ornament is the equivalent of this. You have to put him in eventually. The experiment must eventually start, since you cannot continue to hold out hope in front of fervent supporters indefinitely without repaying them. The cycle goes on till then. Cleveland keeps slamming doors, teams keep phoning, and Sanders is the lone sane voice in the NFL's most ridiculous tempest. With a rookie they selected in the 5th round, they are essentially holding the league hostage, and it is making everyone else go crazy. It remains to be seen if Sanders turns out to be the salvation Cleveland has been hoping for, or merely another depressing chapter in their never-ending tale of grief. However, at this moment,
we are dumb. I mean, they think we super dumb. I have a problem. If you don't want something, let Shedeur go. If you don't want him on your team, if you're not planning on starting him, let him go. If you're not planning on treating him right, let him go. But don't get us wrong. We want Shedeur to be treated just like the rest of them.
There is no denying one fact. Cleveland is not making a trade for him. They are not flinching, blinking, or even moving. The Browns are, for once, clinging to hope like it's the last thing keeping a sinking ship afloat. They've essentially become the obstinate friend who, simply because they like the way a winning lottery ticket attached to the refrigerator looks, won't cash it in. NFL teams are using symbolic bribes, flashing draft picks, and waving money around the table. Cleveland simply smirks and leans back, responding, "Nope, we're fine." The funny thing is that this is the same franchise that previously believed Johnny Manziel, Colt McCoy, and Brandon Weeden were all a part of a larger scheme. The Browns were the ones who were pleading, rushing, and in a desperate situation back then. However, the roles are now reversed. The league as a whole is keen to find out what Cleveland is concealing. The craziest thing is that Cleveland isn't even trying to be courteous about it. As all of this is going on, you can imagine that someone is silently thinking, yeah, sooner or later they're going to need me, while chuckling to himself and browsing through Twitter. The present quarterback hierarchy in Cleveland adds even more humor to this spectacle. Imagine telling Browns supporters a few years ago that they would be pleading for Joe Flacco, who is 40, to start, while their brand new franchise memento remains undamaged and in its original box. Additionally, Dylan Gabriel is somehow being portrayed as the franchise's future, even though the man hasn't demonstrated that he is anything more than a charming temporary stand-in. And then, like forbidden fruit, there sits Sanders in the locker room. Untried, unproven, but in some way already worth more than half of the NFL's starting quarterbacks. It's almost poetic in its irony. We haven't witnessed such craziness since Bill O'Brien believed that selling DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of peanuts was a wise move. Teams with postseason aspirations are collapsing more quickly than Matthew Stafford's vertebrae. They're all pleading with Cleveland for the one player who could save their season. The Browns simply refuse and laugh. Furthermore, they aren't even incorrect. Not every QB prospect is the same as Sanders. He is a living example of a cultural reset.
Anything right. I recently saw last week when the kicker missed his kick in the last couple of seconds, Shedeur went over to give him some words of encouragement, and y'all said that he just wanted some TV time. Newsflash. The only reason why the camera was over there is because Shedeur walked over there. Like, you've been able to have an explanation for everything on why he's not good, why he can't play, but explain why you won't allow him to practice. Explain why you won't allow him to actually get better. Y'all are making it very obvious. You just want to bury him and so we can just stop talking about him. But at this point, the story is too big. Everything about this has been blown way out of proportion. I'm just looking for...
Take Jackson State, for example. They weren't even well-known nationwide before Sanders. When he arrives, ESPN can't stop discussing them. After that, he moves to Colorado, where every college football joke becomes a must-watch television program. He is currently in Cleveland, a city that is so accustomed to losing that they may as well call it trademark sorrow. And what takes place? Without ever setting foot on the field, he flips the script. The Browns won't let him go because of this, because arm strength, accuracy, and pocket awareness aren't the only factors involved. It has to do with Sanders' status as more than just a quarterback. He is a brand. He's in the news, his shoulder pads and optimism. How can you even sell that move if you're Cleveland? How can you face the crowd and tell them that you lost not just a future star, but also the one man who restored faith in this city? You can't, since doing so would formally make you the biggest moron in a league that once allowed Nathan Peterman to throw 5 interceptions in one football half. Not to mention that Cleveland's executive management is constantly speculating about scouting the 2026 quarterback class as if it were the solution. Wait until you see the alleged future stars they're swooning over if you thought Sanders' dominance in college was crazy. The so-called golden boy, Arch Manning, is throwing more incomplete passes than a backup from a junior high school. Additionally, Drew Aller's stats suggest that he was throwing at a carnival dunk tank while wearing a blindfold. Cleveland reportedly wants to think about these boys as its future. Please, Sanders was eating lunch in between classes and putting up better numbers than that. The weird part comes next. The longer Cleveland keeps him sitting on the bench, the trade calls get louder. His value increases with each sitting session. It's like purchasing an extremely low-priced company and then seeing it soar to the moon while all other investors scramble to get in. How long can Cleveland prolong this game? That is the true question, because desperate teams are going to start making blank checks as November 4th draws near. When a present wraps another interception, Miami supporters are already honing their forge picks.
Sanders is going to end up getting traded. He will not be with the Cleveland Browns for long. You can bank on that now. I'm telling you, Shedeur Sanders is going to get traded. He's not beating out all those guys in the QB room to start within the next 2 to 3 years. This year, next year, the year.
Walked up to you after taking his walk down to the pylon, and then he walked back up to you on the sidelines before Snoop went in, and he said something to you. You shook your head. I mean, was he trying to get back?
He's a competitive kid. The plan was to go with Snoop there, so but I wouldn't make any more of it than that.
There is no denying one fact. Cleveland is not making a trade for him. They are not flinching, blinking, or even moving. The Browns are, for once, clinging to hope like it's the last thing keeping a sinking ship afloat. They've essentially become the obstinate friend who, simply because they like the way a winning lottery ticket attached to the refrigerator looks, won't cash it in. NFL teams are using symbolic bribes, flashing draft picks, and waving money around the table. Cleveland simply smirks and leans back, responding, "Nope, we're fine." The funny thing is, this is the same franchise that previously believed Johnny Manziel, Colt McCoy, and Brandon Weeden were all a part of a larger scheme. The Browns were the ones who were pleading, rushing, and in a desperate situation back then. However, the roles are now reversed. The league as a whole is keen to find out what Cleveland is concealing. The craziest thing is that Cleveland isn't even trying to be courteous about it. As all this is going on, you can imagine that someone is silently thinking, yeah, sooner or later, they're gonna need me, while chuckling to himself and browsing through Twitter. The present quarterback hierarchy in Cleveland adds even more humor to this spectacle. Imagine telling Browns supporters a few years ago that they would be pleading for Joe Flacco, who's 40, to start, while their brand new franchise memento remains undamaged and in its original box. Additionally, Dylan Gabriel is somehow being portrayed as the franchise's future, even though the man hasn't demonstrated that he is anything more than a charming temporary stand-in. And then, like forbidden fruit, there sits Sanders in the locker room, untried, unproven, but in some way already worth more than half of the NFL's starting quarterbacks. It's almost poetic in its irony. We haven't witnessed such craziness since Bill O'Brien believed that selling DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of peanuts was a wise move. Teams with postseason aspirations are collapsing more quickly than Matthew Stafford's vertebrae. They're all pleading with Cleveland for the one player who could save their season. The Browns simply refuse and laugh. Moreover, they aren't even incorrect. Not every QB prospect is the same as Sanders. He is a living example of a cultural reset,